The conversion rates remain relatively steady, whether I'm sick in bed or, it creates other challenges. But I'm a huge fan of it. And just to your point, everybody always asks me, like, can I sell my thing with that? I literally now probably get 5 to 10 messages a week from somebody who goes, holy shit, it worked. They bought from video. I was in my pajamas. I think it's the future because it's also a benefit to the prospects. They don't want to talk to you for 60 minutes just to find out how much it is.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Joel Irway here, and welcome to another very special episode of Experts Unleashed. Super stoked today to have a good friend of mine, Frankie Fihn, who is the author of two very, very popular books. Number one is The Passive Automated Recurring Income, and number two is Beyond the Agency Box. Now, Frankie and I are both in the digital marketing space. We're both in the agency space. We can talk all things regarding offers and marketing and sales. And I'm excited to have Frankie on the call here today because we're going to talk about a couple of very specific things that he's known for that I'm very excited to learn about. One of which is how to close with videos. I'm talking, not on a Zoom call like this. I'm talking, hey, I'm going to hop on a Loom video or a, 3 or 4 or 5 minute little screen recording and send that off to my prospect, my lead, and close them that way. I know it's very hot right now to close these deals without hopping on the phone, without doing Zoom presentations. So we're going to talk all things agency. We're going to talk all things sales, all things offers. I'm excited to jump in. Frankie, welcome, my man.
Dude, I'm excited to be on here. I feel like the last time we recorded something was almost like a decade ago. So it's been a long time
ago. It was a long time ago. Yeah, that was when I was heavily focused on webinars. Yeah. So cool. Well, hey, why don't you give our audience just a quick 30-second background introduction about, who you are, your history. I know you've been in the game for 20 years, so you're a seasoned veteran. Give our audience a little bit of context as to who the man behind the microphone is today.
Yeah, it's funny, you and I have seen in the last a couple of years that it's become really trendy to start this whole digital marketing, work from anywhere, laptop kind of business. When I started this, early 2007, I remember the economy was in the toilet. The whole recession was happening in my local area of Windsor, Ontario, Canada. It had hit like a year beforehand, and all the major employees were Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler. It's essentially like mini Detroit without the gunshots. And basically, they were laying off left and right. So I couldn't find a job. And I had a friend who called me up one day and said, "Hey, I wrote a real estate course and we're going to sell it on the internet." And I remember laughing at him. I was going no, you're going to sell your own fucking real estate course on the internet. And he said, "But I'm not good with computers and I don't know how to do this." And I knew how to fix hardware and things like that. But I was like, I don't know how to build websites or sell anything. And he's like, "Yeah, but you can figure it out." And he hung up the phone on me. And I didn't really have anything better going on. So that started, we ended up building that thing. And somebody came along 6 months later, 12 months later, and offered to buy it for multiples more than I was making from it. And so I ended up selling that thing. And I went through this weird phase of, what do I do now? And I told somebody else about how we were able to make it popular in Google search. And they said, "If I pay you, can you do that for me?" And that was the beginning of my agency. It had no name. We ended up having a white label agency for 10 years. And then the last few years, I've coached and mentored people. But I really and I'm sure you can relate to this, for most of those years, I just felt like I was taking arrows to the chest, trying to figure out things the hard way. I never figured I would turn around and look backwards and try and help somebody to go, "Oh, this is the path, not that, not that way."
Yeah. So that was 2007, right? Fast forward to where we are now. It's holy crap, 2025. And, you've got an established brand, you've got an established name, you do many, many different things, you audience acquisition, you help people, close more deals with their agency. Before our call here today, one of the things that you said you were most excited about, and also your audience was most excited about, was closing with video, right?
Yeah.
Tell us the origin about how that came to be and why it's so effective. I mean, you said I don't want to spoil it, but you said you've closed real estate deals, you've closed crypto investment deals. So it's not just agency services, it's kind of a new way of selling. Give us some context of the evolution of this.
Yeah, it's funny, but it started because I got the idea, there was a prospect I was trying to sync up with, and for different reasons, our schedules just wouldn't align. And so I said, well, why don't I just send you the details in a video? And I was like, I wonder if I could just send them the sales presentation in a video. And back in those days, I had the free version of Loom, and Loom cuts you off at 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty ruthless about it on the free version. And so I decided, like, I didn't want to pay for the paid version. I think it was $10. It wasn't the $10 was going to like bankrupt me or anything. I promise you guys that. It was more just like I've at least 100 times signed up for a software, totally forget about it, and it runs in the background. 6 years later, oh shit, I've meant to cancel that. So I didn't want to have like that scenario happen again, because of like I just tried an idea and it didn't work. And so I remember doing this recording, and I think the first 10 times it just went like 20 seconds over. And I was like, ah, fucking missed the close, right? Like the most important part of like telling them how they get it. And so it was like really like, it took me a couple of tries to condense it down to 5 minutes. And I had no idea at the time, but I was working on something magic where I didn't realize it. Is I was still of the mindset that sales calls were a benefit to prospects, and they need to like do a deep dive, and they got all this value from me analyzing their life and their situation and all those kind of things. And what I realized in kind of going through that process is that prospects prefer it, because instead of asking, especially busy, successful people with money, it's like, I'm not asking for 60 minutes of your time. I'm just saying, watch this 5 minute thing, tell me thumbs up, thumbs down, and watch it on your own time. And there's no pressure to say yes or no. And so like, as you know, like the key element of that is we're using the offer to do that. And part of what made it click kind of faster is, and I'm sure you can relate to this, I've easily done a few thousand sales calls over like 20 years. And so like I've had more than a few. And what you find out is, especially if you do it in the same vertical, you can almost tell you the questions they're going to ask before they ask them, and the things they're going to say. Like I've done a lot of work with attorneys. I'm going to tell you what an attorney's going to say before they even finish their sentence. And sometimes it looks like mind reading to them, but it's really just, you've had the same kind of conversation 100 times in a row. And what I realized is, instead of like having this long-winded call to get those details out, I was like, why don't we just answer those preemptively? And you said something last time we interviewed you. I actually wrote it down, and it stuck with me for 10 years. That's how good what you said was. But I realized most people just want to know, like, what is it? Like, in essence, like, what problem does it solve, or what outcome does it create? Like, what's it going to do for me? And then if you show them something that they want, they almost always want to personalize it. Hey, I wonder if that would work for me. Like if you show somebody a case study of like, here's what I did for someone else, they go, I wonder if that would work for me in my specific situation. And then they want to know how it works. And if all of those boxes are checked, they want to know how much is it? And if it meets the price criteria, they want to know, how do I buy it? And so all the Loom video is we're just taking 80-20 of a sales call and answering those things in fast forward. In essence, answering 95% of the questions they would ask before they do it. And the real piece is, I figured out that if you can say it visually, people get it way faster. So there was a guy who was in Florida where you just got back from, and he was the #1 guy selling hurricane-proof windows. And so they had their big annual sales conference, and he was the #1 selling guy at the conference. And he was crushing like #2, #3, #4, #5 combined. And they said, like, how are you doing this? And so they got on their conference, and they all thought he was using like this super secret sales technique and the double tie down close and the objection handling sequence. And he goes, no, I just do this. I grab the window, I grab a hammer, and at start of it, I go, wham! And I go, see, hurricane-proof windows, right? And so I realized for most people in my world, like who are running like agency services or selling some expertise, is that when you create an outcome, it's often like a lead that shows up in somebody's inbox, or an application, or a thing filled out on a calendar. If you just show a picture to like a plumber and say, like, I'm going to put people in your calendar who are looking for stuff like this, like new construction, they'll get it so much faster. And so what we found is, the more you can go through those milestones with visuals, you can do it 1,000 times faster, have prospects get you quicker, and buy quicker with less resistance. And then once you do it, you realize the real magic of it is not that it closes people, it's that video frees you to do the sifting and sorting. So what I find is, like, for me, I have a new phenomenon called inbox hunting, and I'm sure you get it too. But like, I don't know, I wake up 3 a.m, there's a big ass fucking payment, and I got to figure out who sent it and why. Like, what did I just close on? Because video me was 24/7, 365 prospecting when I never sleep. And also, like I said, doing the sifting and sorting. So when somebody's a no, they're no at the video level. They're not no at, hey, we spent 60 minutes spending all our time together. And so the real magic to me is that it buys back your time. And also, like, I've gone through a lot of periods of like trying to hire salespeople and closers and doing all these things. And even when I found good ones, even when I found good ones, I found like they're still people. So they have up and down times. Like I can remember my best sales guy ever. I can remember like he had a week where he broke up with his girlfriend. I'm like trying to talk him out of the suicide note. Like, dude, I need you. Get your head in the game. Go close these fucking deals.
Yeah.
We need the cash flow. I have none of those problems with Video Me. Like Video Me's like once I get it, that 5-minute presentation down, it's perfect every time, all the time. And the conversion rates remain relatively steady, whether I'm sick in bed or, it creates other challenges. But I don't know, I'm a huge fan of it. And just to your point, everybody always asks me, like, can I sell my thing with that? I literally now probably get 5 to 10 messages a week from somebody who goes, holy shit, it worked. They bought from Video. I was in my pajamas. Like, and like, I think it's the future because like, it's also a benefit to the prospects. They don't want to talk to you for 60 minutes just to find out how much it is. Like, hey, I put the details, including the price in the video. Let me know.
So are you sending this as a prospect? Like where in the lead cycle is this video coming in? Are you prospecting beforehand? Once they show interest, then you send the video? Or what's it look like?
Well, I'll tell you how I do it today. And most people are interested in the close part of it, but I believe like, as like conversion is a process. It's not like this single event.
Yep.
And so I believe that before you get somebody to an offer video, that you should in essence like pre-sell your mechanism or your plan or whatever you should be. So like I'll give you an example, like just so people can wrap their head around it. We got a guy in our mastermind. He's got a Go high level software where he helps plumbers to get Google reviews, right? So they install it, it connects to their CRM, it hits up their past clients, and they get a bunch of reviews. Well, if you want to close a Go high level software in a video, the piece that I've helped them to create is like either whether it's a webinar or a podcast or an article, it doesn't really matter so much the medium, but we're pre-selling the idea that if you're a plumber and you want to get like the high quality kind of referral jobs from Google, the only way you're going to do that is if you have the most and best Google reviews in your industry. And then he lays out for people how to manually get those reviews. But what he's really doing that whole time is he's pre-selling his offer, because if they're bought into the idea that they need Google reviews to get where they want, where else are they going to get it from but him? So I always feel like there's 2 sales you have to make. And the first sale is, this is a good idea in general. And the second sale is use me or use my system and my tool. And I feel like everybody always asks me about the second part of that. And like, obviously there's some skill and some strategy, but the piece everybody missed is the what goes before that. But we're essentially, creating pre-sales content or ads or articles or blogs or podcasts or whatever, or email sequences that sell people on the idea to get what you want. And I find, like, don't just say that as marketing, like believe that. Like if that's really true, if you think a plumber needs to get a bunch of Google reviews and you built a system that makes that better, faster, easier over here, then most of the sale to me is convincing them that they need Google reviews in the first place. Only about 10-20% of it is, let me talk about what it would look like to work together. And so everybody always asks me about the close, but I think the 2 things go hand in hand. But having said that, I mean, we have closed a lot of shit just with a 5-minute video. Like if somebody's ready to buy something and solve a problem, like, we've closed a few real estate deals. I wouldn't say a ton, but probably a half dozen or 6-7 deals entirely through video. And there's no pre-sales content at all. Just like, here's the videos, here's the house. And they're mostly deals for investors. So they're not like, mainstream real estate, but we're showing them like, this is what you're going to have to fix. This is the mold problem. This is the messed up drywall that you're going to probably have to paint this. There's a hole in the roof over here. It's got this kind of flap. And like, we give them a detailed video of like, this is what you're really buying. And that's the biggest thing is everybody wants to like kind of make their stuff sound cool instead of just being accurate. And by far the biggest mistake people make with all of that is they think they're supposed to be describing themselves and their service instead of the problems it solves and the outcomes it creates for people. And it's really not about you at all. It's like, that's the thing that confuses people. You make a 5-minute video, maybe 10 seconds of that is, here's how you buy my service that fixes this problem. But most people get that detail wrong. And then and I see this like, in agencies, but the same thing could be true of coaches, consultants, really any sort of expertise driven business. Like, go to their website and tell me that they get it. It's about problems. No, it says, I'm Joel Irway. I do this. I'm blank. I'm awesome. I'm cool. We do blank, blank, and blank. We do SEO, pay-per-click. And they talk about their vehicle instead of like, hey, if you're a plumber, like, for example, one of the things the guy talks about in the plumbing example is, if you don't have Google reviews, you mostly get like emergency calls from people who have clogged toilets. And if you do get the most and best reviews and you rank for specific keywords, you can get new construction work. So you never have to like have some fat guy smelling shit ever again, right? And that's an important detail, right? Like they don't care about the Google review and the Go high level SaaS that creates that outcome. What they care about is, man, if I never had to go, be elbow deep into a clogged toilet and instead I could just have to get these new construction jobs, I would take that all day, every day. And it's really about the process you're using that brings them to there and less about you and your thing. But I just wanted to clarify that because everybody asked me about the close. And as you know, as somebody who like creates offer, usually by the time you're bringing in a closer, you've nailed the pre-sales content, your offer is dialed in. Like the closer is really more of an order taker at that point if you've done your job right.
Well, it's funny because people really confuse the sales process a lot. Like especially over the past like 5 years, there's been a huge push for our industry to like scale through sales teams, right? And it's like, oh, hire a closer and hire a setter. And it's like, well, what you're really doing is you're basically like what these people who are in high volume sales floors, they're relying on their setters and their closers to do all of the like figure out if they've got a problem. Like they're probably dealing with leads that aren't even problem aware yet. And so like those salespeople are handling the entire sales process from start to finish. And can it work? Sure. Of course it can work. Is it effective? Not for the vast majority of people. And so people really miss that part. Like they miss the part of like, oh, if I just hire a closer, it's like, well, no, like, how educated, how nurtured are they into knowing that you have a solution? So I love the part that you're talking about. It's like people need to be educated on your mechanism, like 100%. 100%. Like if they get educated on the mechanism, that creates the desire to buy what you have. And that if you create the desire to buy, that means they've sold themselves on, oh, I understand this is not X, Y, and Z, other alternative solutions. I really like this new way that Frankie is going about solving this problem because I've tried all these other solutions before and it sucks. This looks unique. I get it. Now, let's just make sure it makes sense financially. If the value is there, then I'll rock and roll. So I love it. I do. It's incredible. So what am I missing, right? So when you walk through a 5-minute presentation, can you take us through like the high level steps of what you're doing in 5 minutes?
So the first step is and even though like I'm describing how I present it, I actually create the process in reverse. So I'll describe like what's in the video, but like when I'm actually creating them, I do it in reverse. So the first thing I show them is a demonstration, and I'm either showing them one of three things. I'm showing them a problem that we can solve, and I'm showing that as a picture as it shows up in their reality. I'm showing an outcome that we can create for them, or like weight loss, I'm showing the before and after together. So real simple example of a problem. We got a guy in the dental industry. He talked to dentists and they said their problem is, I bought a $20,000 website that looks like, dental magazine, but at the end of the day, the chair is empty. And what they meant is, they had invested in an expensive website, excuse me, for the purpose of getting somebody in their hygienist chair. And anybody who has employees can relate to that struggle because when you don't have work for your employees, they cost you $45 an hour, benefits, health, all those things. When you do, they make you money in most cases. So their pain point is whenever the hygienist chair is empty, that person is cash flowing the wrong direction. I'm losing money and it drives me crazy. And so when we showed them a problem, the first slide in the video, we showed a really pretty dental website, an arrow, and then an empty hygienist chair. It says, "This sound like you." And it came straight out of the dentist's mouth. Like we weren't guessing at that. That's an important detail is like, research and actually like talking to people. We're not guessing at that detail. Like, 20 dentists told us like, I bought this expensive website just so I could get work from my hygienist, and there's no work from my hygienist. So there's an example of a problem. An example of an outcome is like, it's funny because most people do, SEO in my world, like SEO, pay-per-click, Facebook ads, things like that. And at the end of the day, what they do is they generate leads and opportunities for people. And if you just show a screenshot, like I had a guy, he was doing Facebook ads for general contractors and helping him to get kitchen remodeling leads. And he's like trying to explain what Facebook ads are. And I said, okay, when they get a lead, what does it look like? And we were screen sharing. He pulled up his inbox. He clicked on a lead, and a person had filled out a form and said, hey, I'm interested in getting a quote on my kitchen. And they included some pictures of their kitchen that they wanted a quote on. Screenshot right there. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to send you 1 to 3 people like this a day. And so as soon as they see that, they're not buying into Facebook ads, whatever. They get, okay, I'm going to get 1 to 3 of these kitchen opportunities. They could be $20,000 to $40,000 jobs. Now, the next thing that almost always prospects will wonder, the second step is a more personalized, will it work for me? Right? Like, okay, that looks cool that you got, kitchen jobs for so-and-so, but everybody, you know this from doing it. Everybody thinks their business is different. Like, I'm sure you've heard 100,000 times, I don't know if my market would sell on webinars, and you just have to laugh at this point of like, of course they would. But, it's the same thing. And so I usually like to spell out the exact criteria that they need to be successful. And sometimes it's like, it's as simple as like, answer the fucking phone. Like, you got 3 minutes to get back to these leads. If you can respond to these people in 3 minutes, it'll work. If you can't, don't buy this, right? Like, it's very binary. And so I usually try and create anywhere from 1 to 3 binary conditions that are what they would need for it. So like, we had a really big retargeting offer we ran for the bigger personal injury lawyers. And it was very simple. Like, we need at least 1,000 people a month that we can retarget. So if you don't have 1,000 people a month, don't buy this. Like, I'm not going to be able to retarget anyone. And so I usually try and create like 1 to 3 binary conditions. If you're not sure, the best place to look is anybody you've done this for in the past. Look at the ones who didn't succeed and find what the reasons are. So you're like literally just spelling out the criteria of your ideal client. Which for most people in my world, it's usually just a speed to lead kind of scenario. It's like, you got to be this quick. Then the longest part of the video is the logical part of the mind, like what you would call the mechanism. Like, how does it work? I would call that the plan. Like, and so like what I usually try and do is describe in 3 to 5 steps how you're going to get them from where they are to the outcome. So they have this problem. So like, for example, we got a guy who does this for restaurants, and a lot of restaurants have like empty times, right? Like, not busy on a Tuesday, no take out orders on a Wednesday. Hey, yeah, we're busy Friday and Saturday night, but during the week we got nothing going on. And so what he does is he runs birthday campaigns for them, and he runs birthday campaigns because usually when people come with a birthday, unlike me, they got friends, right? So they got, 10, 20, 30 people, and they usually spend a lot of money because it's a celebration. And so what he does is he takes a little QR code scanner, puts it at their table, and says, hey, if you join our mailing list, you get 10% off your meal. And then he sends little offers to their email list where, hey, if you got your birthday this month, we'd love to, give you a free appetizer or free dessert or whatever, just to say thank you. And of course, they give away one little freebie to bring 20, 30, 40, sometimes, even more than that, people in the door. And so when he's showing that in steps, the first thing he does is he shows a picture of the QR code thing he's going to have at the table. Then he shows an example of the mailing list. Then he shows an example email he's going to send. Then he shows an example offer. And then he shows a birthday party of people sitting at a table. And it's very real. It's very logical. It's like, and the biggest mistake by far people make with this is they're either like way too high level where it sounds like vague nothingness. We're going to optimize, consider, and duplicate and improve like our 4-step plan. It's got to be very real. Like what's going to actually get done. And I look at it like, I don't know, as kids, we intuitively understand this because like whenever I wanted to make money growing up, like depending on whether it was winter or summer, like I mow the lawn or I knock on doors and I shovel snow. Like that's how you do it. And it's very clear. Like, I'm going to take this shovel, I'm going to go back and forth a bunch of times, and eventually your driveway is going to be clear. And so this is actually the thing too. This is where the greatest number of objections come up in your process. And it's because it almost always sounds like something I tried before that didn't work. Well, we did Facebook ads. And so this is where you have to highlight the little details where you're different. And again, this is easier done visually than with words. So like when I was doing the retargeting stuff, attorneys would say, well, we're kind of already doing retargeting. And what they meant was they had one little rinky dink $5 a day retargeting thing. I'm like, no, like you're spending, $1.5 million a month driving all these TV commercials. I want to show them all your best YouTube ads, all your best creatives, your reviews, and I'm going to do this across like 7 different platforms. And so I just made a picture. I'm like, this is your one little rinky dink campaign. This is our big ass, show them all the best stuff you got. And when you go, yeah, okay, you're doing retargeting, but we're not talking about the same thing. And so 3 to 5 steps, show them how it works. And then if you get through those milestones where you've shown them something they want, you've qualified them as, yes, this will, I meet those criteria, and they understand the mechanism, the methodology, the mind will immediately go to, how much is it? And so what we found is like most people hide behind price. And I believe the reason they hide behind price is the simplest reason is they just don't know how to present it. And I remember I was on a webinar once with these two guys who sold a bunch to attorneys. And I watched a webinar where it was no content. They probably sold about $3.5 to $4 million worth of shit right in front of me. And it was all pitch. And it was just two guys. And what they did is they ran TV commercials for guys, and then they would rent you their working TV commercials. And I remember at some point somebody said, "Do you do consulting?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "It's we charge 100,000 for consulting. If you're spending at least 100 grand a month, we can usually cut your TV bill in half because we know how to buy media. We spent 20 years working at the TV stations. We know what they can and can't do. And so we'll cut your bill in half." And he had like three guys sign up for a $100,000 consulting package in about 15 seconds right in front of me. And I remember thinking, like, everybody thinks there's this price limit where, oh, if it's above a certain price, you have to do a call. But what he did is I learned this formula from Travis. I call it IVQ, which stands for the investment, the value, and the qualifier. And the most important detail that most people miss is the value part of it. Like if I just said, I got a car for sale, it's $5,000. It's not a deal. It's not a ripoff. Like you need to know more details about what you're getting for it to contextualize it. And so to me, anytime you present money, like it's an opportunity to contextualize. Like there's a huge difference between I got a 1973 Hyundai. It's rusted. It doesn't run. It's $5,000 versus, hey, I just found out my wife cheated on me. I'm selling her brand new Porsche 911 Turbo because I want to spite her. First person who gets down here gets the title to this car. I'm selling it for $5,000. Like that's a steal and a half. You better come up with $5,000. So to me, like when you present price, most people just go, they present it as if it's a take. And whenever you contextualize it with value, like when those guys said it's $100,000 and we'll save you $50,000 a month, that's a no-brainer, right? So like, so when you present price, like we always contextualize it with what you're going to get outcome-wise based on that. And then the last piece is, especially for those of you guys who like are listening to Joel and sell expertise and things like that, is we assume they know how to buy it. And they do not. I promise you, everybody's got a little bit of different process. Somebody uses PayPal, somebody uses Stripe, somebody sends an invoice, somebody only takes ACH, somebody only does direct deposit, somebody does an onboarding call, somebody's got a form to fill out. And so like you really, really need to go here, click this, fill this out. You will get this, wait for this in your inbox and spell out what the next steps are. And that's really all a Loom video is. So it starts with, we demonstrate a problem or an outcome. We qualify who it's for. We describe the 3 to 5 step mechanism of how it works. We tell them how much it is and what you're going to get. And then we say, here's how you buy it. Now, when I create these things, to answer your question, I actually create them in reverse. I start with, okay, what do I actually want them to do when they say yes? Do I want them to fill out a form? Do I want them to just send me money? Like, do I want to have a kickoff call with them? Like we figure out that detail first. And then we figure out like, okay, how much is it? And what are they going to get for that amount of money? And we do that. And then I go, well, how does it work? And usually that's the piece that's the easiest for people because you know how your stuff works. And 3 to 5 steps. And then I qualify. That sometimes takes me a little bit longer. I figure out like, who's the right person for this? Sometimes getting clear on that question, like can actually take some time and then reducing it down to, 1 or 2 binary conditions. Like you got to call people back in 3 minutes. It's not going to work for you if you don't. And then the last piece is, the one that like kind of hooks them in the beginning is usually the last thing I do. And that's my like, here, hurricane-proof windows. Here you go. You're going to get 1 to 3 kitchen remodel. But it's really just like as you know, so like it's just a lot of sales calls. Like people wonder like, okay, what's this thing going to do for me? And they ask it all kinds of different ways. And then they always think their stuff is more unique. Would this work in my situation? And then they wonder, how does it work? And then they wonder how much it is. And then they wonder like, okay, how do we get started? And so I'm just answering those questions that they would normally ask in a presentation anyway. And because I'm doing it visually, I can do it a lot faster. Like when I used to do sales calls, it would sometimes take me a half hour of digging into their pain and their problems and stuff to just show them like, well, you're going to get 1 to 3 kitchen remodel jobs like that.
Yeah. Well, there's when you're digging into someone's pains, you're trying to get them to admit stuff is wrong. And there's, and like there's no right or wrong way to do this. But when you do so many sales calls and you know their pains and you can assume them and you say it before they even mention it, you've built an incredible trust barrier to where now they know, exactly how they're feeling. And they trust that you've worked with other people and you really do know their situation. Yeah. So I love making that assumption. I do. And it's like, it's confidence, and that builds rapport with your audience. Like, I know your pain. I know what you're struggling with because I work with these people all the time. Here's what you're probably struggling with. Boom, 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 boom. Yep, that's me. Awesome. Cool. I don't need to get you to reveal all that stuff. I don't need to get you to cry on the phone. I don't need to really dig and press on all this stuff. All I need you to do is trust me. And here's how I'm going to prove it, right? I know your pains. Boom, 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 boom. So I love it, man. It's straight line selling. That's what it is. And I love the
Yeah.
visual aspect because as someone like myself, even though I've done many, many sales presentations and I've sold all sorts of stuff, I'm still a logical guy. I'm an engineer by trade, and so I tend to get deep in the weeds of over explaining. And so I love being able to I love what you're doing of being able to sell visually. And that's very, I think that's right brain. Right brain is creative, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
this is
actually
great
did
right
it
brain.
just so like people got what I was saying. Cause like, I don't know, I sold SEO for like 10 years and it was a constant pain point of like, I don't know, my mom asked me for like 10 straight years, what do you do? And I told her, and every single time I told her, she didn't get it. But when I could show people a picture of like, well, or like an example as a demonstration, you can do these audio, but I might show an example of like person calling up on the phone and then saying, hey, how did you find you? Oh, we found you on Google. There you go. That's what you're going to get.
Well, break down that for me then, because I think that's really important. How do you create those pictures? Right? I'm sure just years of experience help, create those visuals of the pain and the solution. So how do you think about creating those visuals to get people to really understand it? Because even if you do know your market intimately, like for me, I know my market, and I would have a really hard time of creating a picture that gets them to be like, "Oh, I get it." Right? How
Yeah.
do you work through that?
The outcome I think is the easier of the two to show because the outcome is usually like the thing you create. So, it's an example sales. Like, for example, when I'm showing people like what we're talking about, where closing sales, I would think about like, how does that outcome show up in my reality? And essentially what I'm doing is almost always we understand it at a 30,000 foot view level. But I think about like, if I had to go down to the ground floor and show up, like, how does this actually show up in the person's reality, either the result or or the outcome of what I'm saying or the problem. And when I was thinking about like closing stuff on video, I was like, well, I get most of my payment notifications in my inbox. So like whenever I go to my inbox, and by the way, my inbox used to be a great point of pain and suffering in my agency, and now it's a point of like, ooh, I just got paid for this. So it's a lot more fun to look at the inbox. And so I literally just took a screenshot of here's all the inbox payments that came that weren't from phone calls. Here you go, right? And so, but in doing so, you can see that a bunch clearer. So, and closing with video, that's one thing, but how does it actually show up in your reality in the day-to-day experience? For example, I got a guy who sells Facebook ads for e-commerce. And I said, like, okay, like what happens for them? And he said, well, they make more sales. And I said, like, go deeper. How did they receive more of those sales in the reality? And he said, oh, they all have this Shopify app. And whenever it closes, it goes ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. And it makes like a cash register sound. And they're all addicted to it and they all check their stats and like, they get a high little dopamine hit every time there's a new one. And I think we all do. That's part of the fun of working online. But, if you're showing them scaling, don't talk about scaling and Facebook ads and all the things they don't care about. Just like, hey, if you're checking your Shopify app and you're getting 10 of these ka-chings, like we can give you 20 of these ka-chings instead of 10, right? Like, and so that's like literally it. It's like we think about how it shows up. So the result's usually the easier of the two. The problem is sometimes like the bigger challenge, but I think about like, how does the problem show up in their day to day in a movie? And you mentioned something earlier. So like in a market, like when you begin to know them where you could speak to them, I probably had like 100 sales calls in a row at one point with attorneys where I said, tell me about your problem. And they always give you the 30,000 foot view. Doesn't matter what your market is. They would say, I need more clients. So we're now up here 30,000. And I want to know is like, how does that show up in your day-to-day experience? And what they said is, I say, why do you need more clients? They would say, well, I have roller coaster income. And I'd say, what do you mean by that? And they'd say, well, I got a couple of referral partners that send me business. And every month, like some months they send me $100,000 worth of business, but other months they send me like, one little $500 thing or sometimes nothing. And I said, they said, because of that, I don't know whether I should be scaling and like hiring a team and building infrastructure, or like, should I be conserving money and just trying to keep the lights on? But like, I have a business I have no control over. Well, it's a pretty powerful thing when you get on a call with somebody. And back in those days when I did calls, they would say, I need more clients. And I'd say, hey, let me ask you, Joel, do you need more clients because you have roller coaster income and right now you're dependent on between 3 and 6 referral partners who send you a whole bunch of business one month and very little the next, and you got a business you feel like you have no control over? Like just asking that question, we're like 70, 80% of the way to a sale Just like, holy
Hmm.
shit, this guy gets me. And I literally heard that 100 times in a row, where like by the 101st time I could say the words they were going to say before they said them. So to me, like if I'm creating that as a picture, I think about how that shows up. And it's like, okay, I would literally draw 3 to 6 people on a picture that are your referral partners and draw a circle around them and go an arrow going, show an office full of clients 1 month and an arrow to an empty office 1 month, and draw a little roller coaster in the middle and say, is this you? And I, by the way, most times when I create these pictures, I use what I call my gangster technology, which is just Microsoft Paint, just like copy and paste to like little arrows and things like that. Like we're not talking really sophisticated drawings, but I would draw 3 to 6 attorney looking guys and draw an arrow and split screen. Half the time you're full, half the time you're empty. Does that look like you? Yes, it does. Like now we're 80% of the way to the sale just in that picture. Like, holy shit, this person gets me on a level. So I think like whenever somebody gives you their problems or whatever, they always give them to you in the 30,000 foot view. And I think our job is to go deeper and go, how does that show up in the reality? The dentist chair is empty. I got, and what I found in doing that is, at least in my world, the pain points are kind of the same like across industries. They're just different applications. So like a common pain point is I don't have work for my guys. So to a dentist, it looks like there's nobody in the hygienist chair. To a lawyer, it looks like a paralegal who's working on Excel spreadsheets again because she doesn't have any real client work. To a construction guy, it looks like I got Cruz, a guy going, what do you want me to do tomorrow, boss? I don't have anything for you. I'm going to pay you. To somebody working online like us, it might be a virtual assistant. Like, what would you like me to do this week, boss? I don't know. I don't have anything for you. And so like, that's the other thing is like through practice, you see the same sorts of problems show up again. I really think there's only like maybe 7 to 10 problems that our marketing stuff fixes, like types of business they're getting. That's another thing is you can focus on like the types of, like they're getting business, but it's the wrong types. So like, for example, I mentioned the plumber example, like if he's getting dirty toilets and cleaning up shit and you can get him new construction, then like, here's a plumber arms deep in shit. Do you really want to be that guy?
Yep. I love it. Yeah. I love the idea of just hyper direct. We're in a world where our attention just keeps dwindling. It
Yeah.
just keeps dwindling. We're getting the big pains for me right now is I'm getting so many spam text messages. It's ridiculous, where I have more spam text messages that causes me to miss real text messages because I just ignore all the notifications.
Yeah.
That it's just like everything is fading into the abyss. It's like, so everyone's vying for your attention. As marketers, as salespeople, like we got to be shorter. We have to be more succinct, and we have to just know our customers, because your customers, your clients are looking to trust someone. And if you can bridge that gap as fast as possible, you have a better opportunity to earn their business. And so I love these short demonstrations. I think you have a really cool origin story about the Loom account. It's like I had to get it under 5 minutes because I just didn't want to pay for another damn software. Right. That's really cool. So Frankie, I love this stuff. So we talked about a lot. I mean, have you coined this other than just like selling with video? Have you coined that as a mechanism?
No, I really haven't. I probably should, and I know I can do more with it, but I don't know. It's funny because like a lot of times I was just trying to figure it out for myself. Like I said, I just couldn't sync up with a prospect. So like, hey,
Yeah.
let me just send you a video. And sometimes it's funny. Some of my best stuff has come out of like just accidental kind of mishap. Okay, I'll send you the details in a video.
I know. It was like that was how, so I have the mini webinar, right? I've been using that for a while, and that came out of just like I was doing so many damn long form webinars that I condensed it, and like I was working with some clients. I'm like, oh, this thing that I'm doing right now, I didn't want to use video sales letter because in my mind it was different, and so it's just kind of like a mini webinar. It's like all the same stuff that I put in a normal webinar, just super condensed, and people loved it. I think you should do like micro pitch or mini something or other. Like mini works. People get mini, and maybe mini pitch. I don't know. So, but you should roll with it. I think it's a really cool mechanism, and you could start selling. Like you probably already have been selling it, but like make your own mini pitch for it.
I like it too, especially because like, the common, hey, can we jump on a quick call? Everybody knows it's not quick and you're going to be hard pitched. It's way less threatening. And what I realized in doing it, which I didn't know in the beginning, is that if 10 people will jump on a call with you, 100 will watch a video of the same thing. And so like people always ask me about the conversion rates, but they're not apples to apples because
Yep.
you get 10 times the amount of eyeballs looking at it. So I probably convert like 15, 20% in video and 80% if I do one-to-one calls with the market I really understand. And yet our sales calls or our sales are higher at 15% because more people are just willing to watch a 5-minute deal to find out the details.
Yep. 100%. Awesome. So Frankie, where can people go follow you? Where can they learn more about your books? Drop some links. I know you're super active on Facebook, but where can we connect?
If you guys want to check out the newest work, which we didn't even really get into, but it's all about creating passive automated recurring income, which is a formula I learned from a mutual mentor of ours named Travis Sega, which is about acquiring audiences and then sticking other people's offers in them, kind of like an affiliate, but not exactly like that. But you build value for people and you're able to take other people's audiences and then monetize them with other people's offers and create income for yourself that doesn't require fulfillment, which is kind of magical for people like me that are better at selling it than actually doing the thing. And then also for those of you guys who are in the agency world, Beyond the Agency Box is my first book. You can actually go get it now for, at the time of recording, it's $3 for a digital version. You can go to beyondtheagencybox.com. And it's one of those things, it's taken on a life of its own. I remember when I wrote the book, I figured if I just help one person, like I didn't have these delusions of becoming a best-selling author or whatever. It's like if just one person gets some value out of this, it'll have been worth it. And for me, it was just therapy to write about all the struggles I had gone through for like 14, 15 years. But every single week I get somebody who messages me who like built something cool just on the basis of the book. And that's always kind of amazing to me when a stranger just shows up in your inbox and says like, I built $1 million agency and I just follow the template that you wrote about. Like, that's pretty awesome to me. So if you guys are interested in that, it covers more of the stuff what we're talking about, but also the things we didn't, the scaling, the teams, the sort of back end fulfillment, the client expectations, and those kind of things that I don't think enough people talk about. Everybody talks about the how to get rich, but not enough people talk about the how to stay there once you get there.
What were the links again?
Beyond the Agency Box. You can also find both of the books on Amazon as well. It's a new website some of you guys may have heard of.
So beyondtheagencybox.com, right?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So we'll make sure we include those links in the show notes. Frankie, it's been awesome, man. I appreciate you dropping knowledge. Really, really valuable session here. Really, really valuable conversation. I know my audience is going to love it. So if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure you go follow Frankie, grab his book, give him a shout out, let him know you heard him on my podcast, and we will see you on the next one. Take care, everyone.